Hello, this video is a short beginner's guide to baby birds, what we call fledglings that have recently left the nest and haven't quite got their adult feathers yet. I'm going to show you 5 young birds who you might see hopping around the garden, your local green space or nature reserve in the next month or so. First, a bird that has been livening up my garden in the last few weeks. This is the starling. Have a listen to this wonderful sound. That's the youngsters calling for food and following their parents around, begging for insect food that the adults are pulling up from the lawn, from the ground, and popping into those open, gaping beaks. Now, starlings start off quite pale brown, and you can see that in this photo. And they will get their spots, the spotted plumage that the adults have, a bit later in summer. You'll see that the youngsters have the yellow gape. That's typical of baby birds. When they open their beak, the adult is drawn in. This is where to put the food. The young starlings' beaks will remain dark for a while. They'll stay like that throughout the winter. And then in next spring, when they come into their breeding plumage, they'll go that lovely yellow colour. Although many of us still see starlings in our gardens and local areas, these birds are sadly in decline. We know that they are successfully raising their young, they're fledging, leaving the nest, but we don't know what's happening to them after that. Let's look now at 2 very similar fledglings, the robin and the wren. The key thing with these birds is to think that the young birds, the fledglings, the ones that have recently left the nest, are going to behave in very similar ways to their parents. So wrens are going to lurk more in thick vegetation or outbuildings like sheds, garages. They're going to be smaller than a robin, and they're going to be quite spherical. They're going to be like a little ball. Their tail's going to be very stumpy, but they'll still try to stick that up like an adult wren, and they're going to be creeping around in foliage. On the other hand, young robins are going to be just as bold as adult robins. They'll be out in the open. You'll notice on the breast there's a warmer brown colour, which will come through later in summer. They should get their red breasts by July. Here's another familiar garden bird, the blackbird. This is the male. You'll notice that the young blackbirds look very much like their female parents. They're chocolate brown in colour. On the youngster, you'll see that they're a lot more speckly though, lots more spots. And again, look out for that yellow gape that's distinctive inside the beak. That's again where the parent is supposed to put the food. Finally, the wood pigeon. And we often remark, don't we, that we don't ever see young doves or pigeons, and that's because when they leave the nest they look very much like an adult. You'll see on here that the feathers aren't fully grown yet, they don't have the white bit on the neck, and it does look a little bit different to the adult. So often the best way to tell what a young bird is to look at who he's feeding it. And of course, that doesn't work if it's a cuckoo, but that's a whole different story. Look at the behavior as well. Young birds, as well as having those yellow gapes, will be following parents around, will be flicking their wings around up and down, begging for food, and they'll be looking up, looking for their parents to bring them something to eat. Remember, these birds need space. Don't go poking around in nests looking for them. And if you see on the ground a young bird that seems to have been abandoned, its parents are rarely far away. You can read more about baby birds on our website.